All right. This is Ed Dose, and this is St. Vitus Studios, and we are privileged today to talk to Phil Lewis of LA Guns. How you doing, man?
Doing good, man. It's a pleasure to be here.
Good. Where are you talking to me from?
Sunny Las Vegas.
Oh, nice. Yeah. It's raining up here in Seattle for the
Of course it
past
is.
like 2 weeks.
Of course. Yeah, that reminds me of England. That's why I left. I'm done with the rain.
Yeah. I lived in London for about a year back in the 80s, and I remember it raining all the time in the fog.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
kind of liked it. It was kind of nice, but
I
hey,
like the rainy occasionally now. I appreciate it, but back then, like it just went on. It was interminable. It went on for like days, weeks,
right.
and months.
That's Seattle. That's exactly Seattle. Yeah. You have good motorcycle weather for like 2 weeks out of the entire year. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty crazy up here. I don't see why anybody owns a motorcycle out here. Um, hey, listen, I just listened to a bunch of the songs from the new album. Really loved them. Cannonball was just awesome. And Knock Me Down was right in your face. I really liked all that. I know that this is almost, I don't want to say a trilogy to you. It is?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely. Yeah, of course it is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
go ahead and tell me a little bit about that, about you and Phil. You,
look, there are two LA Guns. There's Mark One and Mark Two. And Mark One LA Guns, it was the Sex Action, Never Enough, Ballad of Jane, Electric Gypsy, the band that we put together in the late '80s, early '90s, and it was a blast. It was great, but to be fair, and like I consider myself an artist, and my partner considers himself an artist. The whole band consider themselves artists. So we do this regardless of whether we're going to make tons of money or sell lots of records. It's just what we do. So that was Mark One, and this is Mark Two, which is a completely different machine. That is pretty much, it was, you can date it from 5-6 years ago when Tracy and I had our reunion. We had a long spat, a long estrangement. 15 years we didn't talk to each other, and that was awful. And so we got back together. We buried the hatchet. We became friends, and rediscovered working together and the pleasure and the chemistry that we have. So yeah, there's very much two LA Guns. There's the old last century LA Guns, and there's new one here, which is we're into our third record. With lineup, Johnny Martin on bass, Tracy obviously guitar, Ace Von Johnson second guitar, and Adam Hamilton played drums on this specific record that we're here to talk about. But normally our touring drummer is Scott Coogan, but with this plague and everything, it was just impossible logistically to get it all.
yeah, there's no studios open. Yeah.
Everybody had to do it themselves. I had to do it remotely. I had to do the vocals here. So we were dependent on a drummer that had his own studio. And it just so happens Adam Hamilton fits the bill. He knows the stuff, and it's funny, he's been the bass player, the rhythm guitar player, and now the drummer in LA Guns. But he did a fantastic job, and yeah, the stuff turned out great. Very untraditional way of recording, as I said, all remotely, and just these huge file exchanges of these high definition waveforms, and that was a bit of a learning process for me, but yeah, we figured it out, and it sounds great.
Good. Yeah, I love the stuff that you've got going. So the music that I've heard so far is just really, and the music that I like is in your face. It's you can listen to it and you can rock out, but I like the stuff that's more of in your face. This is come and grab your attention. And
Well, you should point out another one of my favorite songs, an In Your Face song. For me, this is a creeper. I think this one's going to become very popular, but it can't match Cannonball because Cannonball's got so much going on. But Living Right Now
yeah,
is a great song, and it's got that punky in your face. When I say punky, I don't mean Green Day. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean like Chelsea, like
Raw.
Generation X kind of punky. You know, Lords of the New Church,
Right.
that kind of. So yeah, that's a great song. But yeah, I mean, it was designed to be that kind of a record, and even the mellow stuff demands your 100% attention.
Right. Right. Yeah, it's the kind of stuff you listen to while you're driving in traffic in Seattle and just yell at everybody and get your frustrations out. I love it. Yeah,
Yeah, well, yeah.
it's the great kind of music. Hey, the reason that I started the podcast was to inspire artists, because I think we're losing a lot of artists, up and coming artists, because of the COVID thing, and no place to play and no studio time and this and that and the other thing.
Yeah.
And I know that everybody out there, and you and I have met way back in the 80s, which I hardly remember. I'm sure you don't remember, but we all had our hurdles. Even back in the 80s, we had our hurdles of different things, and studio managers and record, producers and managers and record companies
I
and things
get
like
it.
that.
I
So
get it. I was just talking about this the other day on one of my Facebook groups, and I'll admit I'm old as dirt, and that's fine. But I was a teenager in the 70s when bands were being developed like Black Sabbath, Deep Purple, Led Zeppelin. I saw these bands in clubs. I saw them play in small rooms in theaters. I saw Bob Marley play to 35 people.
oh my God.
It was just a most wonderful, magical time to be a teenager.
Yeah.
And everyone was involved in music. Everyone played, had a guitar. Everybody was in a band or knew somebody that was in a band, or their girlfriend made clothes for a band. Music was king. It was there was nothing else. It was like there was sport, but you were either a rocker or you'd be a sports guy. And first time I ever saw Alice Cooper doing Schools Out on Top of the Pops, I dropped to my knees. I had my cleats around my neck, and I never played soccer again in my life after that. So yes, it was a vibe. It was a phenomenon. It was a sensation. Music was kind of like our salvation. It was just like there was so much going on. First thing you'd ever do when you go over to a friend's house, you'd look through their records. You'd say, oh
Right.
yeah, well, can I borrow this? I'll give you that. And you're going through them, and it was just like, we didn't have phones, or of course we had phones, but it wasn't like the device it's become now.
Yeah.
I was just drawn to it, and there were so many opportunities to get into it. There was always a band that needed a helping hand, loading gear, or like doing the lights, or something like that. There was always something going on. Me personally, I knew when I was a kid, when I was at school, that academia was not for me, and I wasn't going to become an accountant or an architect. I was going to become a rock, and so made it a bit difficult because I have no musical training whatsoever. But I left school and I bought my first acoustic guitar for like £12, and I learned how to play a few chords: A, E, the D, the C part. The F one was a bit tricky, always a bit tricky, that F. And gradually, I like figured out songs like Hotel California, or oh baby, baby, it's a wild world. And I'd do an open mic night. I'd find out where there was a pub locally, and they had an open mic, and I'd show up my crappy guitar with the action that high off the neck, and I'd play my 3 or 4 songs, and it was a community. Most of the people who were watching were other musicians, and by the end of the evening, we're all like exchanging numbers and talking and riffing ideas and talking about getting together, and that was the beginning. That was a fantastic way to get into music, and meet other musicians. And you're right. I mean, they still have open mic nights, but you know, they're few and far between. But I highly recommend doing them. And of course, shit like American Idol and all these dreadful talent shows.
Yeah.
That trying to make music like something from the 1950s.
Yeah.
You know, so sterile and so, you know, clean, and it makes you wonder what a band like The Who would do now.
Oh God, yeah. They,
You know, a band, you know, radical band, you know, that are young, and I mean, there are young angry bands, and you know, have great output, but honestly, back in it was like, if you were good, you'd go somewhere. You know, it was there was somewhere you could go. There was always something to do, and yeah, you know, my open mic nights turned into jams with friends, and before we knew it, I had my own band together, and yeah, playing shows, and you know, playing parties and people's you know, private events, and you know, anything really, you know, like if there was like, you know, some garden fete or some swap meet or something like that. Yeah, there'd be a truck, a flatbed with some drums on it and a couple of amps, and yeah, we were away. That's all it took.
yeah.
And always playing and learning the hard way. And as far as studio goes, the kids today have it better than ever. You know, the fact that you can record a symphonic album on a laptop,
Right.
with a $100 interface and a $100 microphone. You couldn't do that back then. You had your trusty cassette, and what you do, you had, you were smart. If you had money, you'd have 2 cassette recorders.
Right.
So I could play the cassette of the band playing the music, and I could sing along with it, figuring out my part, and I'd be recording it with another cassette player, so that when I played it back, it was this horrible amalgamation of 2 recordings.
Right.
That was our overdubbing. That was the only way to do it.
Right.
So things have got a lot better than that. The first 4-track machine, the cassette Porter Studio, and it was and not only 4 tracks, but like the Beatles, you can back it down to 2 and then start all over again. And it was just wow. If I'd had this when I was 16. So yeah, back then, you know, if you wanted to record something, it was expensive. It was like, you know, $100-200 an hour.
Oh yeah.
To go into a fancy studio. They even shitty studios, even like 8-track studios were ridiculous. Like, you know, $150 an hour. And you know, so you needed to be ready by the time you went into the studio. You couldn't fuck around when you were in there trying to work it out. You need to have it all sorted out and rehearsed and in your head and ready to go. Because time is money. Tick, tick, tick.
Oh yeah.
So, you know, it's that way, in that respect, it's better now than it was back then. But yeah, it's tough. You know, there isn't like anything like that musical community that I was so blessed to be part. You know, because it was, you know, I'd see Peter Green from Fleetwood Mac walking up and down the street, and David Gilmour, and these were just normal guys that were in bands that were, you know, on the up, like they were going somewhere, going places. And just normal guys just hanging out at the pub, having a drink, and quite often at one of my crappy open mic nights. But yeah, to have been a fly on the wall, to have been a kid on the wall. I was about 17, right in the heart of London, right in the heart of West London, in about 1973 or 4, and of course, you know, a couple of years later, I'm there for the conception of punk, real punk rock.
Yeah.
And I was like, And it's like, oh shit, you know, because I was a big rocker. I was a hippie, you know. I was all about, you know, the peace and love and the music and the jamming. And all of a sudden, these ugly bastards show up with their 3 chords, and I was a bit scared of it at first. And I was like, well, wait a minute, hold on, I can play these 3 chords, and you got sucked into it. You couldn't help it, you know. Right. Bands like Clash and the Pistols, they were inspiring, and it was a refreshing change from Genesis and Pink Floyd and all the prog rock that I was just weaned on and loved, and it was refreshing to find get a new thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, and you know, it served me well. No musical training, but you know, it's given me a living. It's been my salvation. And back then, of course, it was always music. Well, you'll never get anywhere with music. Even if you're the Beatles, you've only got 2 years, and you know, stuff like that. They were just so, you know, the older generation, they were just so incredibly discouraging.
Right.
And you know, I was just, you know, looking out for it, you know, trying, you know, not to get carried away with our fantasy. But it was like, no, fuck off, Granddad. I'm going down the pub. I'm going to play some songs.
Right.
And yeah, so yeah, it's a great subject, and it's good that you're focusing your attention on maybe developing the scene, getting the scene going. But yeah, if I was going to do something like that, I would get like a venue, and I'd hold an open mic night, and not just for, you know, people playing acoustic, but you know, a band can get up and sharing the same gear, no fucking around, line check and sound check. You get up there, you do 3 songs, and then somebody else gets, another 3 guys, 4 guys get up and they do their 3 songs. You got 2 minutes to get your shit together and play.
Yeah.
And I would love that. And that was very much my evolution, how it started for me.
Right. So when you had problems, when you did run into problems, like during the 80s with grunge rock and things like that, and bands or venues that were starting to, and you probably didn't run into this, I did, where the venues would charge you to play.
Oh yeah, pay to play.
Yeah,
sure, man.
Play.
You know, it sucks, you know, but you know, when LA Guns did an AC/DC tour, we had to pay to get on it as well. You know, it isn't
right.
It ain't pretty. That's just the way it is. And I hate it that the bands have to pay to play to open for us. But that's the venue's policy. That's how they make money, because it's you can't guarantee that people are going to show up.
Right. And
so, you know, to keep the wheels rolling, it's kind of a necessary evil. It sucks. You know, I never did it coming up the ranks.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's just a common process. And you know, we went on tour with Cheap Trick, and you know, I don't know if it's a pay to play, but you know, you're buying onto the tour and contributing to the expenses of it. That's how they put it.
Right.
So yeah, no, it's horrible. I don't like it, and it really stifles creativity, because if you're a good band and but you don't know and nobody likes you, but you're really, really good, right. You don't stand a chance. You know, they gussy it up and say, oh well, you're not actually paying to play, but you've got to buy 50. You've got to sell 50 tickets.
Right.
They do, or 20 tickets or whatever like that. That's another one of the catches
right.
that the venues might do. But yeah, I'm sorry about that. You know, just find places that don't, and you know, try and avoid, you know, a venue that is notorious for that.
Yeah.
The whiskey does it. It breaks my heart you know, because they have like 7 bands opening for us.
Right.
You know, we'll go on at midnight or 11 p.m. and they've got bands starting at 5 p.m. that day. Sun's still up, and bands that are setting up and starting their set, and they've all paid for the pleasure of playing the whiskey and opening for LA Guns, and you know, 7 bands. I don't even, you know, I don't, you know, the math. It doesn't take much to figure out. That's a nice chunk of change.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's a nice chunk of change for sure. Yeah, the places in LA were completely different. I think after 82, 83, I think everything kind of changed. And now we've got bands that are coming up. I know a lot of bands here in Seattle, and I've had the pleasure of photography, you know, in my life, because I was a better photographer than I was a singer or a songwriter. So I just stayed with the photography. But I know a lot of guys here in Seattle, and it seems as though they're getting not depressed, but almost beaten down by the I don't want to say the system because it sounds like I'm a punk rocker, but you know, you kind of getting beaten down by the system of you can't. Yeah.
It's the curse of the working class, isn't it? You know, it every now and then there are these gaps, there are these opportunities, these stargates, if you will. 60s was one, you know, in London. You know, all these broke ass kids, Pete Townsend and Roger Daltrey and well, not Jimmy Page. He was always quite privileged, but you know, it was a real working class thing. And yeah, like the Kinks, the Who, you know, they just came out of nowhere, and that was the golden opportunity. And they're generally working class kids, disgruntled, working class kids, and you know, with some anger. And yeah, I mean, do you think they would have got on American Idol?
No. Yeah.
You know,
can you imagine Ted Nugent on American Idol? Yeah. he would have scared everybody to death.
You know, all I can suggest is, you know, if you've got it and it burns inside you, you just got to get on with it, get your head down, and weather the storm. You know, I can't guarantee it's going to work. It worked for me.
Right.
It might not work for everyone. I've got no regrets. I wouldn't. You know, here's another thing too. If you're serious about this, you can't have a family. You can't think that you can mix, you know, a young wife and a kid with a band. That's never ever going to happen. It's gonna hit the wall in no time at all. You know, I'm not saying you got to be celibate. You have a girlfriend, live with a girl, by all means. But you know, this whole family thing, it'll fuck up any band. You know, it's happened so many times. And you know, unless you're, you know, like solvent and you know you sold 1 million records, then yeah, then it's a different story. You can, but no. And honestly, take it one step further. Get a vasectomy too, so you don't fuck anyone up, and you're golden. You know, there's plenty of kids. You don't have to worry about germinating the population. It's all good. Yeah, that's what I did.
You know, when if you have a band and you have a bandmate that you don't want any longer in the band, but you just can't, you know, face it to fire him, invite his girlfriend to band practice.
Yeah.
And that'll be the end of that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. I remember. Reminds me of the time we had a drummer, and he was terrible, but he had a really good drum set. And then
this is David Lee Roth. How come David Lee Roth is in Van Halen? Because he's got the PA system. That's it.
That's right. Yeah.
That's funny. Funny stuff. Hey, I wanted to talk briefly about the new album when it's coming out. The new song, something that you like the most out of it. And I'm going to put all the links to all the music and all your information down below so everybody can find you. And then just kind of touch on the new album. Tell me all about it and tell me what you know.
I've got to be brief because I've got other ones coming in.
Absolutely. Yep. No, go ahead.
But yeah, it's a great new album. It drops on November 13th. It's 11 songs that it's all killer, no filler. Lots of different styles, lots of rocking, lots of metal, lots of punk influence, some really cool ballads, and real happy with it. Great performances all around. And you know, not that it matters, but you know, it was recorded under exceptionally challenging circumstances, and for it to come as good as it did, you know, just even getting it out was a great achievement. But it sounding as good as it does, and you know, I think you're going to like it. We're going to be doing it. We're going to be touring in the summer with Tom Kiefer from Cinderella. So it's going to be Kiefer, LA Guns, and Faster Pussycat, and just looking forward to getting it. It's been 2 years since we've done any proper shows, and you know, these songs, I've never sung them live. I've never sung them with the band. I only, you know, I got them. They were delivered to my computer, and I sang them in my closet. Yeah. So it'll be interesting to get with the guys and hear what this actually sounds like organically.
Right.
And very, but thanks, Ed. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Phil. I appreciate it. And yeah, good talking with you. And I will see you when you come to Seattle. You and I will get in touch when you come to Seattle.
We were great to hang out. We'll have a beer and keep up the good work, man.
Absolutely. Thanks, Phil. Hang on a second. Bye.